You've been kind enough to say that you'll be open to talk about the mechanics of YouTube.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you a few trade secrets here.
I bought a minivan for next to nothing.
That van, it made me about $250,000. If you go to an advertiser and say, hey, this is what the market rate is or a million view video, they can't afford it. And that is insane. I'm spending a lot of money every month. Before I eat, before I do anything to pay myself a cent, I'm spending $80,000. I never want to seem like I'm flexing on anybody.
Do you ever feel guilty if you're not doing as much work compared to those guys?
That is an interesting question, and it's hard to answer but what it does tell me is...
Freddie.
Yes.
Tavares.
Yeah.
You are back for the third time. That is a new record for me in the Road to Success podcast studio.
Bye-bye.
For a recording, we thought, why not? You're over at the Petrol Hedonism Live event at Nebworth. We're surrounded by cars, people, an entire event, but you just can't help but have a catch-up with me, can you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just can't stay out of this van. It's really weird.
He's always in the back of my van.
Yeah, even when he don't want me to.
It's the weirdest thing, having to go up to Chip Foos or someone to say, would you like to get in the back of my van to record a podcast?
Mm-hmm.
And that initial, if they don't know who you are, spark is questionable.
Yeah.
But as you all know, most of my episodes usually go in the format, if I haven't had someone on before, in your own words, who are you and what you do. But I think we've fairly well covered that in the past. So today, I want to go into something that you've been kind enough to say that you'll be open to talk about, which is basically more about the mechanics of YouTube at the minute, because there's some really fascinating things in that kind of space that I think haven't necessarily been shared really clearly before.
Sure. With
a wider audience that probably want to understand, how is all this possible? Mm-hmm. How does this rebuilding thing work? How is it financed? How does it spit out a result that's profitable at the other end? But before that, how you been?
I've been okay. So I just flew in like 2 days ago. I flew in on Friday. Petrol Hedonism is Saturday, Sunday, and tomorrow morning I'm flying out. So I'm flying out through Manchester, and Manchester's 3 hours from here. So I got a nice drive. And
you like flying out of Manchester, don't you?
I do. Well, actually, it's because there are cheap tickets from Orlando to Manchester, and because when I flew into Manchester, there was a Lamborghini Aventador frame that I had to go see right when I landed. So that's one of the cars I'm working.
So I'm sure people would have seen, I was sat on my sofa, randomly actually collided with US Jimmy the other night watching your video. Yeah. And you've literally just released that you bought I say you've bought a Lamborghini Aventador, because I'm not sure. I don't know how much of a car you still need to have on it to be classed as buying.
There's a VIN number on there, I think. Yeah.
Is that the bare minimum? Is it?
It's still bare minimum. It does have 4 wheels. It does have an engine, but none of the body panels are there. It's a 2018 Aventador S Roadster, which is really, really cool. I've always wanted an Aventador. It's like the car that like the really aspirational, the Lambo with the doors that go up and flames that shoot out.
Pants go down.
Yeah, exactly. My pants just go down immediately. And it's a V12 car. It's before they went hybrid and all this stuff. So honestly, it's a car that I've always wanted, but I could never afford. And the reason why is because they are here in the UK. They're a little bit more affordable. I'm not gonna say cheap, but they're more affordable and more attainable. So like a Aventador SVJ or something like that, like the last iteration of the car, or like the Ultimate or something. It'll cost you probably 300,000-400,000 pounds.
Yep. Yeah.
In America, that same car would cost $900,000.
Whoa! Yeah, $650,000 basically.
Yeah,
$5,700.
Yeah. So it's almost double what the cost is. So I thought the train had left the station, like the ship has sailed on me getting like a cheap Aventador. Like it would never ever happen, because even like the crappy one, like a 2012, which is the first model year that they had them. The ones that you don't really want because they were clunky and they didn't have all the features that you want. Even those in the States are like $250, $300. That's a lot of money.
Is that because they're a fashion statement? Are they limited numbers? Is it supply and demand? What is it?
I think it's just because people are willing to pay that. And in America, the market is a lot bigger than it is in the UK. And in the UK, you have right-hand drive examples that you can't bring over anywhere else. So, I mean, maybe this in Japan and maybe some Asian countries, but like the left-hand drive examples are, they go for a premium just because you can sell them here, you can go to Europe, all that stuff. I don't think they're like super rare in terms of like they made 11,465 Aventadors, which is a lot, which is, you know, more than any other big V12 Lamborghini that they ever made. But if you look at, you know, the SV and then the Ultimate and the SVJ and all that, all like the kind of special models, those they made like 500, 800, you know, things like that. So those are kind of like the special ones among the 11,000. But I could never afford it anyway. But then my friend who runs a shop, he said, hey, I have this basically shell of a car that I don't know what to do with. And, you know, I've worked with him for a while. He's a good friend. And he was like, hey, I'll cut you a deal. I know you do the YouTube stuff. Like this is a car right up your alley, but it needs everything. So then I went down there and I, you know, paid him the money, and it was like, you know, the equivalent of a Toyota Camry. I don't know what you guys have over here in that price range, but it was like 50 grand. And
that was still 50,000.
Yeah. It's still 50,000. Yeah. So it's, I mean, it's 50 grand USD. So like it's probably 38, you know, whatever.
So that could buy here
a Renault Captur that I rent.
Yes. You always have an interest in renting a car when you turn up.
Yes, but what's a new? So I don't know what new cars are now. Like I don't know how much new cars cost. So
not more than they ever did.
Yes,
especially when you get into the likes of BMWs and stuff like that. I've got a friend called Aidan who works at the BMW garage in Swindon. I actually went in because I was thinking of swapping my Range Rover. I got a Range Rover Sport, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll have a look at like an X5M competition. You know, something sporting that range. And from being
something practical
kid and growing up. Like, I don't know, my dad liked big SUVs and like the most powerful SUV. He's a big guy, he liked big SUVs.
Yeah.
So I always traditionally remember them being like 70 grand to 90 grand was like...
Was at the end of the world.
Like,
yeah.
Like now 90 grand gets you like the base diesel 350D mod.
Yes.
And you're at like 150 to 170,000 quid.
It's insane.
Like the big models, like a Range Rover Sport, I think the new SV with like a full urban kit on it and stuff like that. Simon, shout out to him. He's been on a podcast, Urban and Wicked. But still, that car's like 150 grand.
Yeah, and then
Range Rover Sport.
And then it gets stolen the next day. Like it's
yeah, so it has gone through the...
Yeah, but so I think in America, the average new car price is $47,000.
Okay.
And that is insane. That's like the average, like everybody on the road has a new car, that's how much they're paying, which is nuts. So to have an Aventador for around that price, for me, it was like, okay, let's, you know, how bad could it be? And then, you know, we get there and there's like no body panels on the car. And it turns out the car has been in a pretty bad accident at some point in his life and then repaired by essentially a 5-year-old. So it was really, really badly repaired. And then the engine had some issues.
And it's now time to introduce this week's channel sponsor, Holy. I used to waste loads of money on unhealthy energy drinks, but Holy have completely changed the game. We genuinely love these drinks, and I use a large range of their flavours, like the energy iced tea and the hydration drink. So if you're like me and you struggle from hydration, Holy's super low calorie alternative to unhealthy energy drinks can be the perfect solution for you. And I'm a massive fan of Holy because it ditches sugar, taurine and anything artificial in favour of 100% natural fruit flavours and colours. This means it can give you, yes you, a great energy boosting hydration drink that is super low in calories and tastes great. Now, I've been sampling the Holy Starter Set, which gives you 2 sachets of Holy's best-selling flavours, and you also get a neat 500ml shaker too. Now, my favourite flavour this week has been the pineapple hydration because it's been quite warm in the UK, and if you get your water nice and extra cold, it is simply delightful. And all you got to do to mix it is take the lid off your water, give your sachet a little shake, pour the powder into your water. And these sachets are great. We actually keep some of these in the front of the van. Yes, this is a van studio we're recording in, which means it's super easy when we're drinking just to pop them in our water, pop the lid on, give it a quick shake, and then that's literally it. Done. So good to be fair. So if Holy is something that you think that you could benefit from, just like I did, then grab yourself a Holy Starter Set.
And make sure you use the discount code BENPOD5 for £5 off your first order, or BENPOD for 10% off your future orders. I've left the link in the description below. Thanks, Holy.
Do you like big builds? Do you actually like big builds? Because I'd class the Aventador, the way it sits, as an enormous project, in the same way the P1 was. Like, sometimes I see some of the guys, and they've maybe hit into a lamppost, and it's still a hell of a lot more than anything I could ever do.
Yeah.
And have to change the front end, but it's not like been underwater. Like, of course, do you ever think I need a project here that maybe is something that I can get out of the door of the YouTube factory?
All right, so I'm gonna tell you a few trade secrets here. The Aventador, in my eyes, is not a big build. The P1 is, just because I knew going in everything would have to be replaced, and it's a car that does not exist. It's a car that they only made 375 of, versus the Aventador they made 11,000 of.
Mm-hmm.
So parts are going to be expensive on the Aventador, but they're not going to be impossible to get. So what that tells me is that whatever we need can be available through different means. I mean, I come to the UK pretty often, so I'm like, okay, well, if I come to the UK, then maybe that'll be a resource that I could use. I have some friends over here. Maybe I can get some parts, and parts being a little bit cheaper. The Aventadors are cheaper here, but they're essentially constructed the same way. So I'm like, I'll just get parts here, ship them over there. It'd still be cheaper than me buying it new. So like that frame that I got, shout out to DME Tuning. The frame that I got, it's going to cost me like $5-6 grand, UK. But the brand new frame from Lamborghini, and I don't even know if I can get that, it's $22,000. So it's like already I'm saving more than half of the cost. And on top of that, since you're making these connections, like now, if I need something else, like, oh, now there's inroads to other things. But with the P1, I knew that, the wiring harness needed work, the engine needed work, the interior, the exterior, literally everything. But with the Aventador, it's more like, all right, the engine is broken, but we can fix it. I have this lined up. So it's more of a weirdly enough, it's more of a quick build for me. So I think, I'm crossing my fingers because we just took the engine out.
Let's just all pause for a second and remember that sentence. It's more
in 3 years when I'm still doing this. You can refer back to this video. Yeah,
I got a funny feeling it will be sooner than 3 years before you're back in this van again.
No, but
or it's like US8, man.
Oh, there you go. You're building a van. But I think this build in my head shouldn't take more than a few months. Now, if you gave this to a regular shop and be like, all right, fix this car, I think that would take a very long time, just because they'd have to go through the normal, routes of getting Lamborghini parts and stuff like that, and it would cost a lot of money. But for me, I'm not cutting corners, but I have contacts that could make this a lot easier, and plus I'm doing a lot of the work myself. So it's a lot of the problem solving that people like to see on YouTube. After all, that's what the rebuild thing really is. Like, you're taking on this project, and there's all these problems that you don't know you have. So the first video usually on a rebuild car is like, I got this crashed car, or it was on fire, it was underwater, or whatever. And then the first video, or the first few videos, is just all discovery. And it's like, how bad is it? So we're going to peel back all the layers of this onion. We're going to see how stinky it is. So I think, once we've done that, like before I came here, we just took the engine out, and we saw to the full extent of how bad the frame was. And the frame was like, okay, we can't use this frame at all. Like, we can't repair it, nothing, because it's an aluminium frame. And it is, once you tweak it, you can't then pull it back or weld it or anything. Like, there has to be sections that have to come out and re-welded. And unfortunately, it was hit in a certain way where it's just junk. But the previous owners of this car did not care about that. So it was like this Miami body shop that does a lot of export cars and stuff like that. And they would make these cars drivable and then export them to wherever, South America, some drug lord. So that's usually how it goes.
So when you went to go and view that car, you must have known roughly what you wanted for it, as you just said. Do you already have an idea of what that car will cost to repair?
Yeah. So, I mean, my idea was even if we, even if we had really expensive prices on the body and all and stuff, like I wasn't counting the engine to be, because an engine is like 80 grand. Like engine is a lot of money. But I had confidence that the engine would run, even if it was running on a few cylinders. If there was a few dead cylinders, we could fix that. Even if a piston came out, my concern was that there was a hole in the block. If there was a hole in the block, that block is toast. But the way an engine works is you have a short block and a long block, and basically like a top end and a bottom end, right? Or bottom end and top end, respectively. So how it works is if you have problems on the top end, that's a cylinder head. You can take those off. Like if a valve is bent or something like that, you can take that off. You can take it to a machine shop, have them redo it, and for the most part, if it doesn't leak and everything should be good, put it all back together, new seals, new gaskets, and it should be good. With bottom end, if piston goes through bottom of the block, that's like crank damage. That's like you're basically rebuilding the whole thing, and a lot of times it's not worth it. So if the bottom end was fine, which it was, and it's only the top end, it's not actually that big of a deal, because if you're taking out the engine anyway, to take the engine apart, and then knowing some people that I know, like it'll be expensive. It'll be probably like 10, 20 grand. Still, that's better than $80,000 on this end trying to get a new engine, which might have issues down the line anyway.
Literally, a massive chunk of all of this is basically comparing the cost that you would have fixed it for going through the dealers, cheating the dealers, and seeing what the bottom line can be compared to that.
Yes. I mean, I'm not a person that would ever go to a dealership for anything, but because when I grew up, I had, I never had any money. So going to a dealership, like where somebody goes, oh, well, my car's at the shop. I'm like, I don't know what that is because I can't afford it. Somebody looks at my car and then that's like $100, but like that's all the spending money I have for the week. Like I don't eat if I fix my car. So I have to fix my car myself. How do I do this? And I remember, I'm not sure if I told the story in your podcast, but I remember I was so broke. You guys call that skint here, right?
Yeah.
I was so skint that I went to the junkyard. Like we have these pull apart junkyards. So you go and pull apart off a car, and then they price it off. And I got brake pads, used brake pads from the junkyard, because mine were toast. Like it was metal on metal, So
like what I did to my car at Duns.
Yes, yeah, but they weren't carbon ceramic. It was on a Nissan Maxima, so it's fine. These brake pads would have been from the store, like brand new from the store, $40. Couldn't afford that. So I drove to the junkyard and I got these brake pads. I was like, oh, these have some life left on them, and I put them with these knackered rotors. And I went to the the reception, not the receptionist, but like the cashier, and they were like, you could just have them. They just felt so bad for me that this stupid kid with no money just wanted used brake pads. He was like, listen, you just take them, whatever. Nobody's gonna look for brake pads. So, I remember that. And I'm like, I never wanted that anymore in my life, but I also didn't want to go and bring my cars to the dealer, because I thought largely the dealers were just sort of a ripoff, because you're paying for a lot of their overhead, and you're paying for like the name, or like you're paying for a piece of paper with a letterhead on it saying like this car was actually taken care of well. But now I know like a lot of dealer techs who are like, I wouldn't let them touch my car with an 80-foot pole.
Have you ever managed then, whether it be the Nissan Maxima right at the beginning, all the way up to project, what was the last project finished? It would have been Sue, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Have you ever managed to come in under budget significantly on a project on the channel?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you also assume that there is a budget for these things. So also, if you guys hear some stuff in the background, that's because we are at a show, and
the bass has just started up for about 2 minutes, I reckon.
Yeah, it's all right, but we're going to be dancing around here. He might be like next.
Look, guys, give me a second.
Yeah,
we got no assistance today. I don't really think it's picked.
That's I don't think it's picking it up. It's like all the cameras are shaking.
We're in a show. There's a bit of bass outside. It'll stop in a minute. But so have you ever managed to come in under budget on a build?
That's a good question. That assumes that there is a budget on the build, which usually there is not. There's like it's like the hope for the dream. Yeah, well, it's like a back of a napkin math. You know, it's sort of like you see on like Instagram and TikTok, like girl math. You know, it's like I have to take this expensive vacation, so I save, you know, 5 pounds here. It's basically boy math. So like I can't afford an Aventador, but if I work my butt off for 1,000 hours and then, you know, buy all this stuff and then fix one, then maybe I can have one for 75% of the cost. Like it doesn't make any sense, you know, fiscally, but I think the best ROI, best return on investment that I've ever gotten was my Pimp My Ride van, my Pimp My Ride minivan. So I bought that van. It was featured on season 6 of Pimp My Ride, you know, the exhibit show with you know, they take these people's cars. It was like a totally fake, but whatever. They take these people's cars and they modify them and they put stupid stuff like fish tanks and, you know, like just really, really dumb things. So this van was pink and purple. It had a jewelry making station, had a disco floor, it wasn't this nice embroidery. It was like made of denim, like the seats.
Okay.
And then it had like 9 screens and a bunch of subwoofers, and it was a really cool van. But it came into a state of disrepair, and it was offered for sale on Craigslist. And then I ended up buying it, you know, for $850. And then, you know, the 3 videos that I made did something like 23 million views. It was like #1 on trending and all that stuff. It was crazy. This was back in 2019. So I posted it on Christmas, and then that was like the #1 thing, like YouTube worldwide #1 trending. And that was back when like I don't know how that worked. We were getting, you know, 400 to 500,000 views an hour. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, we got like 8 million views in a day. Which, I mean, if Mr. Beast got that, then he'd have a bad day. But for me, it was pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, so that van with everything, like it made me about $250,000. So, I mean, for an $850 investment, I think I was into it probably 5 or 10 grand. With everything, with transport and fixing everything and blah, blah. But like, let's say 10 grand on the very, very high end to make 250, I feel like.
And was back in 2019,
crypto
channel still growing, like sponsors around.
Yes.
Was that all AdSense?
That was not all AdSense. Most of it was. I think I had another sponsor that
20-30 split or something.
It was more like 90-10.
Really?
Yeah. So I had a sponsor. I had a sponsor on that video series, and they also didn't expect it to do that well. I thought
they got their money's worth.
Oh, absolutely. They got. Oh my God. They now what sucks about that is that the sponsor that I had, they now expected like, all right, we're going to sponsor this other video series. I'm like, I can't do that again. I can't, like, let's just be very clear. This was a fluke, but like, I'll try. I'll do my best to do this, but I cannot guarantee 23 million views on #1 on. I can't do it.
I had the same thing with the Ben Collins episode where he came on and suddenly, like, I checked my phone like 10, 20 minutes later after posting, it was like nearly on 100,000 views.
Yeah, and you're like, wait a minute, is it like what's wrong? Like what?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's because it's an incomprehensible amount of people. Like, I'm sure a lot of the people watching and listening right now would have seen, if they have any girl in their life whatsoever, a photo of the Taylor Swift concerts currently going.
Oh yeah.
So I saw one on a friend's story from Wembley a few weeks ago. That was 93,000 people in Wembley.
Oh my goodness.
And do you know what's sad is I do think some of the creators that I'm friends with, all of the guys, you, Matt, Chris, whoever it is, I think very desensitized potentially to the views now. And because how can you picture, say a video does 2 million views on the P1. I just picture like a football stadium and I try and picture 20 of them, but your brain can't do it. It's so many people. And then, which is the bit that I've been learning this year, it's not 2 million views or people.
Yeah.
It could actually be 2.5, 3 million people.
Yeah.
Because that one view is 6 people sat around the side.
It could be, yes.
Just something at night. And that's the bit that I don't think people comprehend the scale of the people that actually tune in through that lens.
Yeah. It all becomes real when you come to a show like this. So if I got, like we were just talking about the Taylor Swift concert, like gigantic numbers of people, like 93,000 people is mega. If I got a video with 93,000 views, I would consider quitting. Like it doesn't make any sense because it's like it stops making financial sense at that point. But if you have a video that does 1 million views, you go, oh wow, this number went to 1 million, and that's really cool. But then if you had 1 million people standing in front of you, you go, oh my god, so
let's spin that round though, because and think about how people will react to the information that we're giving out. So let's say that those videos did 23 million views, and it was early on 2019. Channels growing AdSense. It probably wouldn't be your peak YouTube ROAS either.
Okay.
Your peak was RPM.
That's revenue per 1,000 views.
Yes. It probably wouldn't be at its peak, so it could have earned even more now, potentially.
Yeah, for sure.
With a higher RPM. However, even though, yes, if you say £250,000 off a van build from some YouTube videos, which essentially is the kind of skin and bones of it, it sounds like a lot of money. And I appreciate people listening to that. It is a lot of money.
Yes.
However, if you pictured 23 million people, which is uncomprehendable, you'd have to ask AI. Try it if you're really into this. Go on ChatGPT and ask it to create a 23 million person stadium. I'm not even sure if it could do it.
That's bigger than some countries. Yes.
How much would the organizer of that event charge a company, your Coca-Colas, your Teslas, all the rest of it in the world, if they wanted to be the halftime sponsor at 23 million view like event or program?
Yes. So therein lies, yes.
Then seems like
peanuts. Yeah.
Absolute peanut.
Yes. So that is a really good point. And that is the problem with a lot of YouTubers now. It's because they command audiences. Like if you look at Matt Armstrong or like anybody who does, millions and millions of views per video, and they're very consistent. Like I'm like my floor of videos, like of views is about 1 million, 1.1 million, right? And that is to most advertisers, it's interesting because if you go to an advertiser and say, hey, this is what the market rate is for 1 million view video, they can't afford it. That's like a significant chunk of their budget.
Mr. Beast is spoken.
Yes. And Mr. Beast is like, that's what I do times 100, and that's, he gets 100 million views on a video. What company is going that's like 5x their yearly advertiser spend, and these are big companies too. So what do you do? So with, I guess with Mr. Beast, he does, he has his Feastables and he has like all like his other businesses and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes he does brand deals, and I'm sure those brand deals are millions and millions of dollars. I can't imagine that they get a good ROI, but who knows? I think that it's interesting because we are artificially selling ourselves short on stuff like that. So if we have like a 2 million view video, then we'll charge like a quarter or a fifth of what like TV would charge for that same amount of views.
Is that because there's two things? A, am I right in saying that YouTube takes 50% for themselves and it's sort of 50% creator of what they've...
I think it's like a 50... I think it's like a 60-40.
Is it a slightly different cut to that? So if it's like 60-40, YouTube's made a percentage, so the advertiser has paid more than what we have earned.
Oh, yeah.
YouTube then takes a cut out of that. So if 250 grand, maybe that the advertiser has taken, just for easy numbers, YouTube's taking 250 grand as well. There's been 500,000 of ads placed over it.
Yeah.
However, this is when I'm then going to differentiate the question a bit to the sports stadium, because the sports stadium idea of that amount of people, not that there is any stadium that can hold that amount of people in the world.
Let's just call it YouTube Stadium. Yeah.
I think if you were looking at the stadium as a retention graph for the game, all the people in it pretty much stay to the end. Unless it's a Man United game in the UK where the fans pretty much walk off.
Yeah.
Because it's so bad.
Is that because of Rashford?
No, he scored. Apparently he scored yesterday.
Oh, nice.
I saw Toe Bear from Matt Armstrong's channel put in the chat yesterday. Rashford scored, Rolls is worth more. So
sweet. So he can buy another one now. Yeah. And go 30 miles an hour into a fence post.
Finally scored a goal. But my point is, when you watch an event like that, or Taylor Swift or all the rest of it, on YouTube, there is the retention graph, which is what we always look at. which is when someone clicks on your video, how long did they stay for?
Yeah.
And there's usually an initial drop off.
Yeah.
And then you look to see if the line stays between 40, 50%.
Right. Yeah.
Just trying to...
It plateaus over
picture, yeah. And a good graph would be like if you're halfway up with the line, not much of a decline on it once viewers have got there, which is why creators work so hard at the start of a video, whereas why they're like bang, 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 bang to try and keep the retention and hook an audience in. Yeah. However, so you have to take that into account on YouTube, right, for the advertisers that we lose on average. I mean, for the podcast, it's more than my main channel, but like at least 40% people drop off within the first minute.
Sure. Yes. But if you look at the average view duration, the average view duration is still exponentially bigger than what it would be on TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. So you have people engaged there for 7 seconds, and then that's like pretty good. But for, an average video of mine, it's like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you can have people glued there, and that's the average, some people are there for the entire, 40 minutes or whatever it is. But if you can have people glued to that, then the amount of ads that you can place starts to matter a lot, because you'll have, mid-roll ads, and mid-roll ads are just ads that you put in the middle of your video. So you have to put them in natural breakpoints and things like that, so people don't feel like they're being taken advantage of, or it's like, oh, it's like a little cash grab, because it is it's a money-making business. We couldn't do this if it didn't make money. So I think there's a lot to it, but the companies are starting to get wise now that YouTube is a growing field. And the thing that does a disservice to a lot of people, especially on YouTube, is the fact that that's nice. I think that was a R34. Parked right here. They're gonna do some pops and crackles. Yeah. The thing that does a disservice to a lot of people in YouTube is the fact that there are so many people in YouTube willing to sell themselves short. So companies go, all right, this guy is charging 10 grand for this, but this guy who doesn't know anything, like who still gets views, his channel is like, going up, he'll take 20% of what this guy has, even though this guy's like established or whatever. So we're going to go with this guy. And then this is now what the market is, because this is, a transaction occurred here and it didn't occur here. Meanwhile, this, the guy that says 10 grand, that's still cheaper than what it would be on TV or terrestrial radio or whatever. So you're in this weird field where people don't know what they're worth. So anytime I talk to YouTubers, I mean, I talk to you about this stuff. I said, hey, if there's any question that I can, I'm an open book. Please, ask me what things are worth, how much should I be asking for this? And, because I think the rising tide lifts all boats. One of my, he's a friend of mine, but he's also a very big mentor, Chris Fix. Chris Fix has 10 million subscribers. And every time I talk to him, we talk pretty regularly. He's a really, really good guy, but he is very, very good at business. And one of the things he told me was, hey, you're asking too little of companies when they come to you and say, we'd like to sponsor a video. And then he was telling me, you're basically asking a third of what you need, or what what the views are worth in the market. So then the next time a company came to me, I just said 3x of what I was, let's say at the time I was asking for like $3,000 or something for a video. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to ask for 9. And then they were like, okay. I'm like, was that it? Was that all I had to do? I just had to ask for it, and I just made 3 times. I just felt like I had to slap myself in the face. And I noticed that, I mean, it's also it's a lesson for life, because if you don't, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Like, if you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it.
There's no YouTube handbook.
No.
This is the thing, that when you talk to new creators, and I'm not far into my creating journey, but both the channels, about a year on both of them, just over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, you do feel so lost, even when you meet, or everyone normally has their cards close to their chest, a lot of people, and no one really knows what the rules are, how much you're going to earn. So that does bring me to a really interesting one, which is, I've heard a rumor, but I don't know if it's a rumor, that in America, the RPM is 3 times higher than the UK on average.
I don't know if that's true. I don't think it is. I think they're pretty much on par now.
Okay.
But it depends on the industry. So the RPM, again, this is the revenue that a person makes. The amount of money that you get per 1,000 views, it varies per country. The UK used to be really low comparison to in America, let's say you have $10. In the UK, it would have been like £4 or something like that. But I think now that's becoming, since the two are colliding, especially in the automotive world. Yeah, the audiences are very it's funny, my audience switched. Whenever I do stuff in the UK, most of my views are UK. So like I have like 30-something% UK viewers versus, 20-something%, but then it goes the other way, where you can have like a 40-30 split. So, and then everything else is Europe and blah, blah, blah. So I think, right now, what the biggest delta in price or like in revenue for YouTubers is ad rates. Is like not like ad rates that you can for like companies come to you and they say, I want to sponsor. So like ad reads that you do, those are way lower in the UK and Europe, because UK and Europe there's a weird culture here. And I don't know why that is. And I'm sure people in the comments are like, oh, this guy's a knob and he doesn't, he's just trying to get as much money as he can. But like, that's what you do in business, I think especially here, companies are like, if you come at them with a big number, they get like offended.
Yeah.
They get like, if you say, okay, if a company comes to me and let's just, pull a number out of my butt and say like, I want £50,000 for a video. It's like, and then a company goes, well, we can't afford that. And then they get offended that I even asked for that. But like, that's what a negotiation is. Like I can say, this is a high number. And then they come at me, we're like, okay, we can afford half of that, or we can afford like this percentage, or what can you modify to make this work? So like in America, there's like there's more of a culture of, we want to work with you, but that number's too high. So what can we do together? But in Europe, they go, no, bye. Like, yeah. So then they're like, all right. And then they put you on like this like blacklist. Like, oh, that guy's way too expensive. It's like, all right, but you want to work together, right? Like, so how do we do this?
So could you just go with YouTube AdSense then rather than sponsors? And have you ever considered doing that?
I don't want to do that just because, number one, it's taking an entire stream of revenue out of your business, which you should never do. You're also putting all your eggs in one basket, which you should also never do. YouTube is already very fickle. You never know where it's going to head. You never know what it's going to do. I mean, like my videos are doing well now, but maybe something else changes, people could get tired of me. People could, there's some weird algorithmic change that might give me a dip for a while, and I'm not making half the money that I did. Or like YouTube could do this like adpocalypse where somebody says, a racial slur, and now everybody's feeling the brunt of it. So I think, it doesn't make sense why I would necessarily take that off the table, because sometimes AdSense is it's so volatile.
So let's try and picture a project just so that it's easier for people to envisage something in their heads.
PT Cruiser.
When you look at the projects that you've done over the last couple of years,
okay,
I'm going to think of those like products on my chicken truck. Oh, right? Like, is it a strips meal or is it halloumi sticks or like whatever? And sometimes
in your Gert Wings truck,
in my Gert Wings truck,
available where?
Oh, well, if you take a look on the Gert Wings Instagram, you can see where our street food trucks in the UK will be pulling up every week. And we're actually, this is an exclusive, about to launch on Uber Eats as well. So
I hear they're irresistible and they make you more attractive to females.
This definitely doesn't do that.
It absolutely does.
We had to cut down my Gert consumption for that to me. No, I'll be honest.
More wings is better.
The P1 build, let's just ask this a simple question. Clearly an expensive build. Will you make a profit on the P1 build, or do you have to rely on the other builds as products almost to bring up the whole channel revenue? So it's simple.
That's a good question. I never even thought about it. I haven't thought about that just because it was so important to me that I get this car for the story and for a vehicle of what I can do with my channel. And I knew that this was going to be, a pretty big deal. It was a big deal for me, so I knew I can sell that idea to other people. Not literally sell that idea to companies, but I'm going to sell that idea as a concept to viewers, you know? So I don't know. I think it probably will make money. If it hasn't already, I haven't checked. But I think it's definitely something where I didn't care about the ROI going into it, and I don't think I will. But the fact is, like, if I can just pay my bills and also be building a P1 that doesn't owe me anything at the end of
flow wise.
Yeah, cash flow, I think I'm okay. I mean, my cash flow is I'm spending a lot of money every month. It's like just before I eat, before I do anything to pay myself a cent, I'm spending $80,000.
Chris Slicks,
yeah,
said to me, because obviously he's relatively new in his YouTube career as well, in a few years making videos, and it's so funny because obviously he can look back on what he earned as a salesman when he was working at Windows and doing all these things. And he said to me, I think it was last month, we had like an astronomical amount of bills. Which build it was? What was one of his previous things that he's just finished? Is AMG.
Yeah,
that was it. And that's right, a big build for the channel and what the channel's own. He literally said, last month, I made the most money I ever made in my life in a month, but I also made the least amount of money that I've ever made in my life.
Yeah.
Because he had absolutely nothing at the end.
It's a fire hose.
It's crazy to think that it kind of works in that way. But I'm going to have to, it's the nature of the road says, I want to ask a slightly tougher question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think because of the length of time, people have got tired of the P1 build?
Yes, to some extent, but it's also, this is not my first rodeo with a long build. I understand that there are people who get really excited about it and they go, ooh, I want to see this, to some completion, but its completion is not, there's no light at the end of the tunnel because we are, episode 3, we're still taking sand out of it. I mean, we're still taking sand out of it to this day, but it's just like, there's no way to make this build quick. I don't have $3 million to just funnel money at this thing. And I don't think people would appreciate that if I did. So this is the only way to do something like this, something ambitious like this. It just takes a long time. Now, there are things that you can do that aren't as ambitious, but they look ambitious to the normal person. And I mean, to the normal person, it would be ambitious, like the Aventador. The Aventador is, it's expensive, bespoke, all this stuff, like really, really cool, makes a lot of noise. But the build on a very technical level, there's a lot of things going on, but it's not as complicated as a P1. I'm not rebuilding this car from scratch, like literally everything from scratch.
Yep.
I'm not reinventing the wheel. So these are all, these are cars that exist in the market. So with people, wanting to stick around, the thing that I have noticed is that if I put out a P1 episode, it still does very well. I mean, I'm on part, I think the last one I posted was part 14 and still got 2 million views.
Okay.
So it's not like people are, I do get a lot of people complaining that this is taking too long and whatever.
It's almost becoming playlist retention.
Yes.
Like, it was another mad thing to build into the YouTube algorithm, which is playlist retention. Yeah. And the fact that I think, obviously, a lot of the creators, and fair play to loads of people in the space, I think we have periods of creating where you push and push and push and go nuts, but sometimes it just catches up and you need a bit of a break.
Right, as well. It's not even
otherwise you won't be able to put the content out.
Yeah. So there's that, and also, these things take so much time to do, and it's not like there are a lot of people. They're probably in the comments right now saying, "Oh, it doesn't matter if it's like this milestone or you get the car done or whatever in one episode. I just want to see whatever work you do, like." Basically, like they turn on a security camera and then that's what they want to see. But the thing is, it's not. Nobody wants to see that. That's you need to have a narrative. You need to have expectations for a video. You need to have them. You need to have a standard. There's a reason why people, millions of people watch this thing. It's because I also try to make it entertaining. It's not just, hey guys, so today we're going to be working with carbon fiber and it's a wet layup instead of a dry layup and.
Hey, Saab Kyle 04 smashed it, man.
Well, no. So have you ever met Saab? Kyle is fantastic, but he, unfortunately, he got his lunch eaten for him by Doug DeMuro, who did the same thing, just in a more entertaining way. So for me, it's like you always have to make this, like, you're an entertainer first and foremost. And for the last 6 months on that P1, we've been doing the wiring harness. We've been doing the, I've had it to different shops to do the carbon fiber work. And then, I just got the turbos in like a week ago. And then now I have to send out the clutch. Like it's a clutch on the dual clutch transmission. I have to send that out to New Zealand. So to get it, fortified, because it's going to be making 1,400 horsepower. All this stuff I can't put on video because it's like incremental changes. And then there's no real payoff there. Unless I finish one of these things, then I can go, haha, you see, now this is done. We can put it in the car. We can test it out, blah, blah. But if it's like, all right, one episode is wiring, next episode, wiring, next episode, wiring, like it just doesn't make any sense.
Then does that make the P1 a good business decision?
No. Well, yes and no. Because as a method for growth, as a method for people getting excited about your channel and to know who you are, it was fantastic. There's nothing I could do. You just had Chip Foose in here. Chip Foose, I've met him for the first time yesterday. And the first thing he goes is, I'm a fan of your work. And I'm like, that's not how this works. It's like, this is not, because I've been watching him my entire life, And the same thing goes for like Mike Brewer. Mike Brewer is like, oh yeah, he knows me because of that P1.
Ben Collins.
Yeah, Ben Collins. Like Jay Leno. Jay Leno watches all my P1 videos. And it's like, I can't fathom that because, one of those views, one of those millions of views is Jay Leno, and it's I'm like, it's Jay Leno and family. Exactly. Yeah. And it's like Chip Foose, and he knows all about my builds. And like that, this is something that I cannot, if I would have just been like some car rebuilder, and I'm not trying to out anybody. I'm not talking about anybody in specific, but like some car rebuilder doing a car that, has been done, 30 times already, but they put their own spin on it. I think that's a little bit different than doing this thing where it's like, all right, there's no way that car's coming back to life. So, for the people that go, oh, just finish the build. I'm like, listen, buddy, like I'm the first person that like, believe me, I'd love to finish it.
Does that get to you? When does it start to itch? The more the time this goes on, the more comments there is, the more, and also, even from me asking the question, I wouldn't have asked the question if there wasn't a reason to ask the question.
Yeah.
Like comments and even friends of yours would have gone, Freddie, what's going on like with this car? Like, is it up to scratch? When does that start to get to you? And then how do you deal with that?
It starts to get to me when I feel like I'm not, I'm letting people down. Like if I am saying that this car will be done, or I'm saying that like I'm working on it and I'm actually not, I think that's when it starts to get to me. But it's, like this entire time I have been solving problems on this car, just trying to figure out what issues they're going to be down the line. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. Last week, I was in talks with a guy that he said, well, I can recode all these modules, we can do a custom and it'll be no problem. It'll take some time. It'll be hard, but we can do it. And it's McLaren modules. It's like, oh, I'm familiar with this and we can do this. And then, he basically just ghosted me for a while, just ghosted me. And I'm like, I'm talking to friends, like what's going on? What happened? And then, through friends, they, find out that he is saying, well, now it's harder. Like it's really hard. I don't know if he knows, like basically telling me like, I don't know. He doesn't think I know how long it's going to take. And I'm like, buddy, I know how long it's going to take. That's why in the beginning, when I said, here's what we need to do, I said, this is not going to be an easy project. And it's not like I don't pay people for their time or anything like that. Like I need this to happen. So to fix that problem, I got all the modules, all the crusty, salty modules from the car. I never throw anything out until I'm done with the build. So I got all the modules, and now I'm trying to have those chips taken out of those modules, get the information off them, and put them into good modules. Because I bought a bunch of computers from like various McLarens, so they all use the same stuff. So if I can transplant those, in theory, with the new wiring harness, I plug everything in, put 12 volts to it, and I should be able to open it with a key and do stuff like that. There still is a big question mark in terms of like, how do I start the engine? Maybe I do a standalone, and then that solves a problem, like standalone engine management computer, which, does a lot of the stuff that the OEM computer doesn't do. So things like,
you've basically become a computer scientist.
Exactly. You have to though, because Otherwise, there's no other, like, I can't just give this car to a shop and go fix it.
You can't go to the McLaren computer read.
Yes. The one
doesn't exist.
Yeah, the one that's on every corner, I'm sure.
To be honest, they'd probably get some work.
Yes, they would. Yes, they would. No shade against McLarens, but build your cars better. But like, I think it's just one of those things where like there are things that take a while and then they end up going nowhere. And on builds like this, unfortunately, you take cars to shops or whatever, and then they're like specialists at this, and then they say yeah, and it turns out they're scared shitless because like they bit off more than they can chew because they thought that it would be a good advertising platform for them, but they can't deliver on what they said. So now I'm stuck holding the bag because I'm like, hey, so I said that this was going to be done, for my viewers, and now it's like I look like I can't choose these companies well, and I can't really, I can't see into the future. I just have to roll with the punches and see what happens. But like, I'm still very much excited about the prospect of having this car done. It's not like I haven't given up in any regard.
The Aventador.
Yeah, and the Aventador. Yeah, the Aventador is great. Like,
What's crazy is if you take it back to talking about the brake pads on the Nissan Silvia and figuring out a way of
Maxima, actually.
Maxima. And figuring out how to...
Silvia is way too nice.
You're now buying an Aventador and looking at that as, well, because I think this is how people tend to, that I have met buy Aventadors. It's like once I've got the GT3 and the 675 L3 and the Beamer and all the rest of it, it's like, right, I've done all of these, and like, I'm a bit of a driver, so I like driving my cars. The Aventador gearboxes are a little bit like birchy and they're wide, especially in the UK.
Yeah.
And all of these things, then that person tends to go and buy the Aventador. I'd say that's probably a good description of an Aventador. But is that crazy to you that it's like, well, because I've done this, and this, now I buy a Lamborghini Aventador, like, and it's one of the cars to tick off? Is that how it kind of works? And did you react?
Yeah, I mean, it's the irony is not lost on me when I go to my garage and then there's a wall of cars that I just coveted as when I was growing up. Like I never in my wildest dreams thought I could afford and maintain
the Freddie.
Exactly. It just looks like a Fast and Furious garage every time, and it's great. But like after a while, it just becomes your car. It just becomes a car that you just drive around in, and it's special for different reasons. It's like it's a testament to like your hard work or stuff like that. But like I never thought that it would. I never ever thought that it would happen to me.
We're all guilty for sometimes getting angry at ourselves. We say that being in our own head is sometimes the worst place we can be. Do you ever, now that you've attained so many cars and so many expensive cars, do you ever look at one and go, sure, it's a bit boring, that one now. Like, I'm not fancying it anymore. Like, I'd rather drive this one. And then get like this other sense come through, like, what the hell? I'm saying that about a whatever.
Okay, so one of the things that me and my girlfriend tend to do, and we agreed not to do this with people, is that...
Oh, crikey.
Yeah. No. It's a behavior. So like it's a self-deprecation, but it's like self-deprecation on your own successes. So like I have, I've done videos on my house. I really like my house. I really like it. It's like, it needs some work, but it's a really nice place to be. It has a good, it has a big pool. We like inviting people over. Also, like, please come over the house, swim in the pool, jump off the diving board.
There's no crocodile in it.
There's no crocodiles. It might be a gator, but no crocodile.
Oh, yeah, that's sorry. Way around.
No, it's a saltwater pool. They tend to not like that. But yeah, I mean, I really like the house. It's a dream house of mine. It's bigger than I need, but it's also like, it's kind of, when I come home, I want to feel like it's a place where I can relax, right? So when people come to my house, I have this tendency to downplay like how, that the house is nice. And my girlfriend also does this, and I'm obviously not blaming her. It's like, it's something that we did because like we have this personality trait where it's like somebody compliments you and you go, oh no, like if you spent all day trying to make yourself look nice, and then somebody compliments you, you go, look nice. Like, oh no, I look like a dumpster fire. Like no, don't. And somebody goes, wow, this house is really nice. And then you start going, yeah, but well, we got to fix this, we got to fix that. And it's like, it's kind of like taking everything down a notch because I never want to seem like I'm flexing on anybody. And for me, like there is a value in just trying to be like, hey, you might think this is nice, but it's not as nice as you think. I think to come back to your question, there is a time when I'm like driving my McLaren. I remember I drove it from like Miami to my house, and it was like 5 hours. And then I'm on the motorway and just driving along, and like I forget that I'm in this car. Like you just forget. It's just a regular car, but people around you are like taking pictures and whatever, and you go like, what do they do? Oh yeah, I forgot that I'm in a clown car. You know, I'm in this car that just yells and shoots fire at the, like, I forgot for a second that I'm this person to them. Or like if you go get fuel and the door opens up like this, and then, you know, automatically people, you know, crowd around, and then the questions come out. How much is it? How fast have you gone? You know, how many women do you get? All that stuff. And it's just like, I have a very kind of sheltered life, not even a sheltered life, more like an introverted life. I go to my shop, come back, go to, well, not a shop, it's garage. You know.
I've noticed that you said motorway a minute ago, and I was waiting for I was like, okay.
Yeah. Garage. Yeah.
What's up?
So yeah, go to my garage, come back, and then that's my day. And I come home and edit. That's literally my day. So I'm very insulated from the effects of this. Unless I come to a show like this and everybody is like super excited about one car, super excited about another car.
Do you go off grid for a while? Because I know that you went off traveling, you went and explored Europe with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And all those stuff. Is that also stressful because at the same time you're not putting videos out? Can you enjoy a trip to its full ability if you're not putting videos out and the cash flow is going like that?
So, yes and no. So, I mean, the cash flow is always a concern of mine because, you know, as a sole provider in my house, it's like...
You just mentioned 80,000.
Yeah, exactly. And that does...
For everybody.
Yeah, and my bills don't go away if I go on vacation. So what ends up happening is like I have to plan things. Like I don't really plan much in terms of bills, but I do plan out my vacations. And, you know, I will have videos that go out. Like I'll have, like right when I did the vacation, I had the Sue video go out. Yeah, Sue. And, you know, it was interesting because that would, you know, like get me along for that amount of time while I was out. And I also tend to think that there's no real reason why I shouldn't go out and do something. Like I don't spend any money other than cars. That's for the business anyway. Like cars and travel. Like I like traveling and I like, you know, taking people with me when I travel. I like experiencing new things. And I think if you splurge on something like that, like you get a nice business class seat or you go to a really nice fancy hotel, like I think that's worth it for me because everywhere else in my life, like I wear $30 shoes.
Yeah.
I wear, you know, a $20 shirt. Like it's nothing here is, you know, there's no extravagant. I have like, you know, stains on all my jeans from grease from my, you know, I just took out an engine.
Yeah.
I'm so dirty. But like it just doesn't, you know, everywhere else in life, I'm just like.
So this leads to a good question, I think, hopefully. That's for the audience to decide. Matt, to me, friend, but also superhuman.
Yes.
For someone so, maybe I've picked up that when people are more introverted, it's not work ethic's not the right question, but Jesus Christ, has he got some horsepower?
Yes.
That's like the best way I can describe it. Like you mentioned time earlier, and they sit and they work till 2:30 in the morning. But they are that group at the minute, I'll add, because we never know what the future holds. It's like that Monster or Red Bull is running through their veins to keep them energized. And they're like a machine. They're just banging out videos. Mm-hmm. And fair play, they want the growth of the channel. They want the success. They're trying to hit the next targets. I know personally, I don't think many of the guys in the YouTube space do it for the money. The money is just a method of means.
It's a byproduct of their efforts. Yeah.
And they want to get to the next goal, the next goal, the next goal. With an up and coming rising trader like Matt, someone that's, you know, I remember Matt said that he used to follow my little car page years ago before they even started anything.
Right.
The Super Guys, but we met at a couple of events and even it felt like the channel wasn't where it is now when we did our first races at Teesside and stuff. And then it's like this super force of YouTube. Like everybody, if you're into cars, you know about Matt Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find, even as a friend, that hard to compete with? And do you ever feel guilty if you're not necessarily to yourself thinking that you're putting out as much or doing as much work compared to those guys?
That is an interesting question, and it's hard to answer because I don't feel like I'm in competition with him because we are friends. Like I think him and all his crew and his dad and Hannah, like they're all family. Like they come and stay at my house, and anything that they need is like consider it done, you know? And the same thing over here. Like we just, we have a great time. And whatever we can do together, it's always worth it.
Yeah.
It's always worth it for me. I think it's always worth it for them. And I think I never tried to compare myself to him in terms of views because like there's ebbs and flows. And I know the amount of effort that he's putting in is astronomical because he's like spending every waking moment either filming, editing, working on a car, putting these giant productions together. And him and his team are just like, they're just marching lockstep with that vision. Really, really good. But what it does tell me is what is possible. Because if I do a video that's like 1 or 2 million views, and then he does a video that's like 2 or 3 million views, I go, okay, so there's something here that I'm like something in that video that I'm not hitting that he is. And I think that that ability for him to adapt is really important. I think that's the ability that everybody needs. So there's certain things that I do that I know that he's picked up on, and then that's helped him, reach another level. So for me, my problem has always been consistency, just because I think my projects, like the P1 that you just mentioned, it's like they might be too ambitious. They just take too long. They just like have these 1 to 2 year projects where you've never seen that with Matt. With Matt, it's like you have these projects. I think the longest project he has was his Rashford car, and then that was like, and then you had some people complaining about, this taking too long. I'm like, guys, this is a car that was 700,000 pounds. But people expect it like this, and it doesn't, and the amount of work that he's putting in, like I put that suit together, and there was nothing wrong with that car. Like it was just all bolt on, and it took me. So what I'm saying is like it wasn't cracked.
He turned up to drive Tribe Line.
Yeah,
and we went for steak afterwards. And I
mean, there's nothing wrong initially with that car.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we got that fixed. It was a little cattywampus. It's fine. No, but like it wasn't smashed. Like he had to deal with so much more than I dealt with. On top of that, it was a Mansory car. On top of that, it was, all this bespoke stuff. And then you had to craft a story around that. And you had to work with body shops, and you had to work with like wheel manufacturers. Like all this stuff is stuff that he has to do in his own head. So like that stuff is really, really, really difficult. And people they really underestimate how much time it takes. So I think what that showed me is, I also have a team, and I think our team is very, very good. I think, in terms of quality, quality of the cars that we put out, I would put this against any YouTuber, any shop, I bring my cars to SEMA so people can see them. I would put this against anybody in the world. I'm not saying I'm the best in the world at it, but I will put it out there to have people critique it, tell me what they want, tell me what they like, and tell me what they don't like. But I think we're doing the best work that we can. But it just takes a lot longer. So what I can learn from Matt, and the thing that I definitely need help with, is just a consistency, maybe narrowing the scope of builds. And I think that's what I'm trying to do with the Aventador. So I'm like, it's a known thing, so I can make it a little bit tighter.
But are you the happiest you've ever been right now?
That's a good question too. A lot of good questions today. I don't know, because happiness, I did say this on another podcast, the Iced Coffee Hour. And I said, a lot of stuff about my happiness. And then I watched some Jordan Peterson video with them, and then Jordan Peterson was like, well, happiness, I can't do a Jordan Peterson impression, but like he said something about, well, happy is just a word that doesn't make any sense. Like happy is like, it could mean anything you want it to mean. It could mean like, well, my temporary contentment with something. But I think being happy in terms of YouTube is like, am I providing for people? Is this moving the channel forward in a direction I want to go? Is this,
happiness in terms of you?
And okay, in terms of me, I'm in a really good relationship. I have a fantastic family. I have, a lot of people that I go to another country and people line up to see me, and like that's something I can never in my wildest dreams ask for. So I think in those terms, yeah, I'm happy. Is it intensely stressful? Yes, of course, but like I think that's just part and parcel of the job.
Nature of what.
Yeah.
So do you think the last few years in total then, and I'm not going to go into it because you covered it on the Iced Coffee Hour, the first episode we've ever done, but the last few years with dealing with divorces, money, learning about the trials and tribulation of running YouTube, there's been so many ups and downs and whirlwind after coming out of COVID. How much stronger do you think that's made you as a person?
It's changed me for sure. Because I think I was a little bit more naive and a little bit more set in my ways. I tend not to judge people as harshly. If somebody says that they're going through something, or they did something that I might find objectionable, like other than like them like hurting a child or something, but like if they did something that I might find distasteful, I'll still hear them out because I don't know what it's like to be in their shoes. Like people might have a reason for the things they did, or people just mess up, so I think I'm a little bit more patient in things like that, because it turns out when you mess up, it's a lot easier to see other people's flaws, and it's a lot easier to forgive other people's flaws. So it's interesting to me because like if you asked me 3 years ago, I would have said yes, I'm happy, but in terms of like, happiness then would have meant, am I doing the right thing in life? And I would have said largely yes. I think I'm doing the right thing. I'm content with my level of success. But it wasn't like an excitement. It wasn't like something where you go, wow, I can I've accomplished something. It was just like, okay, what's the next thing? It just doesn't feel like anything. But now it's like when you have a upward trajectory on your business, and then you go home and your partner's very accommodating to you, and it's like you go home to your best friend, and then you have a family who's supportive. Like all that stuff just kind of reinforces like, all right, I think this is what happiness is. I think this is what I want to be in life. You're trying to form a legacy that's going to outlive you and hopefully outlive your kids, that sort of thing.
Hard, isn't it? Because you start talking on podcasts, you get into all this stuff, and it does even make you in the conversation get into the whole of like, well, hang on, what's the meaning of all this? Because you start unpicking absolutely everything.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just making YouTube videos about broken cars. Like it's not.
When you bring it down to that, it's simple. But there's one bit just for anyone listening that I just want to touch on just before we kind of wrap up and get back out into the show, because Chiro, the organizer, is probably wondering where we both are right now.
Yeah,
we're just
making out in a van.
Now we're just in the back of the van, hiding in some random car park on the corner. But there's so many kids that come up for photos, and what's so cool is I can think back. I'd chat to Alex, Auto Alex, in there, where he's like, "All right, you come in on Monday? We're going to record another episode. We're going to do this," and I can flash back to being a very overweight 20-stone kid at a car show, with a camera asking Alex for a selfie and trying to start posting on an Instagram account with 130 followers.
Yeah.
Like the supercar expert, I think mine was called back in the day. So I just want to take a moment to reflect for all the kids that actually do come up and ask for photos, and people, because it's mad when you take a snapshot actually how far we've all come from the creators that we've done, like what you said about meeting Chip Foose you today. So thanks for coming on again. Yeah, thanks for having another chat. Thanks for coming to the UK.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's worth mentioning for any Road to Success listeners, I'm currently in the process of just going over to America to build a second podcast fan studio to try and match this one to a T. And no doubt it will be visiting Property Living over Christmas if he lets me. Freddy's.
Also before we end, I also have a show in December. It's in Florida. So yes, you are. So if anybody wants to go to Florida at the nicest time of the year, December 6th through 8th, it's in a place called Auburndale, which is about an hour from Orlando. It's about 30 minutes from all the Disney World parks. So if you have any, significant other that might not be into cars, or kids that might not be into cars, you can just kind of plop them over to Disney World and you can enjoy a really, really nice show. The show's called Wrenchworks. We're going to have me and a bunch of other automotive influencers, Auto Alex, Matt Armstrong, but also a lot of US ones. So we have Chris Fix, B is for Build, Rich Rebuilds, Weston Champlin, Tyler Hoover, Ed Bullion. We're going to have a bunch of people there. Ben Fowler. And I mean, you're not a US creator, but you would. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I like your attitude. We're also going to do live builds. We're going to do it's going to be at it's called Circuit Florida. So there's going to be like a little track section where Ben Collins, the previous Stig, he's going to be doing laps in cars and thrill rides and things like that. So it's going to be a super, super, super cool build. We're also doing in the live build. All the YouTubers going to put their sort of mark on it. They'll work on it.
And how do people get tickets for this?
They go to the website called Wrenchworks. Wrench, well, WRENCH, and then Works, WERX.com. Get your tickets. They are selling out fast, and we only have a finite amount of tickets. So it's not like everyone can come. Like this is it will sell out. So yeah, please get your tickets there because it's going to be, it's the first time I'm doing an event, but we're doing it with the people who are doing Petrol Hedonism, Chiro and Sam, and we have other people on board. It's going to be fantastic. So I can't wait to see y'all there.
And we will catch up after that event and let you know how it all went and see if he's still got any hair left.
No, I won't. Thanks, man.
Good to see you, man.
Awesome.